German Chancellor Angela Merkel has eased lockdown restrictions in her country. Museums, exhibitions, memorials, zoos and botanical gardens will reopen provided they can fulfill social distancing and hygiene requirements to minimize the risk of infection. Merkel said her government was able to slow the spread of the disease.
Wir haben es ja bis jetzt geschafft, die Dynamik der Ausbreitung des Virus zu bremsen. Und das muss auch wieder weiter unser Leitgedanke sein, zumal uns die Wissenschaftler der führenden Wissenschaftsorganisationen hier ja auch immer wieder sagen, dass wir daran arbeiten sollen und müssen, die Zahl der Infizierten, auch wenn sie heute schon viel geringer ist, noch weiter nach unten zu bringen.
She further added that the country has reached a comfortable level.
Ich möchte auch noch mal darauf hinweisen, bei uns ist ja die Diskussion schon auf einem sehr komfortablen Niveau. Wir reden jetzt darüber, wann machen wir die Schulen auf, die Kitas auf. Wir erarbeiten Konzepte für die Zukunft, wann kann auch im Bereich Restaurants und Hotels vielleicht wieder etwas stattfinden. In einigen europäischen Ländern ist noch der totale Lockdown, wenn ich an unsere französischen Nachbarn denke, bis zum 11. Mai. Und da jetzt darüber zu sprechen, wie die europäischen Reisebewegungen im Sommer stattfinden, ist nicht das Thema, das jetzt im Augenblick schon auf der Tagesordnung steht.
Other decisions such as when to open schools and restaurants and resume Bundesliga football were pushed back until next week. Germany has the 6th highest number of reported COVID-19 cases in the world, but has managed to slow the virus's spread thanks to strict lockdown measures put in place in March. Daily new infections have been slowing since the beginning of this month and remained below 2,000 for a 5th consecutive day on Thursday. Since April 12th, the country has had more people who recovered from the virus than active cases. The Robert Koch Institute reported 123,500 recoveries as of Thursday, compared to 35,619 current COVID-19 infections.
Meanwhile, China is kind of done fighting this pandemic and the world is kind of done buying Chinese propaganda. So what's left for Beijing to dispense now besides faulty test kits? Quite a few things, actually, I'll tell you. Sermons on its victimhood, lectures on fairness and responsibility, and threats for those who do not agree. The latest country to face the dragon's fire is the Netherlands. China is threatening to halt medical supplies to them. It's the worst kind of blackmail at a time like this. The Netherlands is suffering from the virus that China sent. It has close to 39,000 cases and has recorded over 4,800 deaths. They need medical supplies. The Dutch must have done something seriously wrong to offend the dragon. What was it? They changed the name. The decision was taken by the Netherlands Trade and Investment Office, which is also the country's de facto embassy in Taiwan. It has announced a simplification of the name of its office in Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. This body has revised its name to the Netherlands Office Taipei. Why did they do so? As a token of gratitude, to thank Taiwan and its healthcare workers for donating face masks to them. The Netherlands has flown tulips and stroopwafels to Taiwan. Guy Wittisch, the Dutch representative in Taipei, called the new name, and I'm quoting, a little bit less, but a lot more. Well, China is in no mood for riddles. It doesn't like anything against its one China principle. Beijing likes no independent mention of even the word Taiwan. For China, Taiwan is its inalienable part, a Chinese republic. The Chinese embassy in The Hague is up in arms. It has sought a clarification from the Dutch Foreign Ministry. It says this name change affects China's core interests. The result is this. The Netherlands embassy in Taiwan has taken down a video that announced the name change. It says the video was always meant to be available only for one day. It has served its original purpose. Was the country browbeaten into doing so? It appears so. The Global Times, which is China's official mouthpiece, has reported on how the Netherlands' move was destructive to regional stability. It said the move will result in the boycott of Dutch products and that Chinese tourists will not visit the Netherlands anymore. Boycott of goods and tourism, a warning that sounds familiar. Do you remember China using it against another country? Let me help you. Australia has been issued similar warnings. China wants its citizens to boycott everything Australian, Australian universities, Australian goods, Australian beef and Australian wine, which they call vinegar. China is accusing Australia of petty tricks. What tricks? Tricks like demanding a probe into the pandemic, tricks like seeking accountability from China, tricks like letting the free Australian media question China. And let me tell you, these are not the only countries that China has threatened. There's a long list. China has threatened Nepal, targeted Nepal, tried to muzzle the free press in Nepal. This happened in the month of February. China went after the Kathmandu Post for questioning Chinese authoritarianism. China also targeted Sweden. This was in the month of January. The coronavirus had just been reported. Swedish journalists were being critical of the Chinese regime. China's ambassador compared these journalists to lightweight boxers challenging heavyweight China. China tried the same in India too. For the last 3 months, the Chinese embassy has issued statement after statement slamming the Indian media. Statements that are the opposite of anything diplomatic. China is threatening anybody and everybody who dares to question its response. Chinese diplomats are on the offensive. They're increasingly taking to platforms that are blocked in their own country and to their own people. But how many countries will they fight? And for how long? This is a question that will be answered only by standing up to China.
Kind of changed my life really drastically, because one minute you have something and the next minute you don't.
Whoa, what am I going to do now? Landlord, what I want to say to the landlord, you might keep me for 3 months. After 3 months, you ain't going to keep me. You kick me out. They ain't going to bother about this with coronavirus and stuff.
There's going to be a lot of businesses where the business may not survive, and my company may be in that category.
Here's a look at the aviation sector. At a time the world is facing coronavirus pandemic, the Middle East carriers Emirates and Etihad Airways believe it could take 3 years for air travel demand to return to levels seen just before the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. In a video conference chat, the Emirates President Tim Clark and Etihad Chief Executive Tony Douglas said they believed 85% of the world's airlines are at risk of insolvency and that without state support, they could go bankrupt before year-end. The airlines also warned it could take until 2023 for passenger demand to recover to pre-crisis levels. The pandemic has brought international air travel to a virtual halt, and many airlines have warned that they may not survive the crisis. Emirates and Etihad, both of the United Arab Emirates, have grounded scheduled passenger flights since last month, but have operated some outbound-only services for foreigners leaving the country. Emirates and Etihad have cut staff wages. Dubai's government owns Emirates and it has told its airline it would financially be supported.
This year, the scourge of the coronavirus might have doused the celebrations of the Thai New Year, but that doesn't stop us from reliving the festive spirit from 2019. That's when Johan and I infiltrated the ranks of revelers thronging the streets of Bangkok and found ourselves bang in the middle of the action. Thailand's mashup of New Year, Holi and Makar Sankranti is a giant street party in which everyone's invited. In Pattaya, I swung a club at the Swishy Chi Chan Golf Club, while Johan sought refuge in the Sanctuary of Truth. A reprise of our great adventure in Thailand this week on WION Traveller.
Can China's loss be India's gain? The coronavirus outbreak is a global crisis. It is a major health challenge for India too, but it is also an opportunity. It's a chance for India to wean businesses away from China and bring them here. And guess what? It's already happening. Foreign businesses based in China want to move out, and they're looking at India as their new home. Not one or two, but as many as 1,000 companies have reached out to India. They're engaged in discussions with Indian officials at various levels. At least 300 companies are actively pursuing production plans. They belong to industries and sectors like mobiles, electronics, medical devices, textiles, and synthetic fabric. Korean companies are making the first move. Reports say the Korean consulate in Chennai has received a number of requests. 2 requests are from iron and steel companies. Another one from the hospitality sector. Some startups have also shown interest in moving from China to India. India is being seen as a solid alternative, a global manufacturing destination going forward. The coronavirus outbreak has exposed how lopsided the global supply chains are. Companies want to reduce their dependence on China now, and India is emerging as a viable option. So which companies could come to India? There are reports that give some clear indications. Apple's manufacturing partner, Wistron Corporation, is reportedly interested in shifting to India. Pegatron, the company that assembles the iPhone, is also considering India. POSCO and Hyundai Steel are some South Korean names doing the rounds. The Indian government is keen on capitalizing this shift. Delhi is expected to make moves to attract more foreign companies. Reports say the government is planning an aggressive Make in India push after the lockdown is lifted. Indian Minister Nitin Gadkari has already given a signal. He has urged industry bodies to attract top companies from the US and the UK, backing the idea of more joint ventures and assuring the government support. This minister said that permissions will be given on a quote-unquote war footing. So what works in India's favor is the question. This has been in the making well before the pandemic, we can tell you. India became an attractive option after the cut in corporate taxes. This happened last year. The corporate tax was reduced to 25%. For new manufacturing firms, it is as low as 15%, 1-5. This is an attractive proposition, but this is not enough. Investors have hesitated to move to India in the past. They blame the changing policies. They blame the red tape in India. And India will have to overcome these challenges if it wants to attract businesses away from China. There is competition too. Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines and Indonesia, these are some of the other alternatives that companies are considering. India may need to do more to attract big investment, and India is reportedly willing to offer incentives to foreign businesses. The Prime Minister's office, Niti Aayog and other government agencies are working on a plan, and here is what it could look like. The Government of India plans to set up dedicated groups. They will directly engage with the firms that might want to diversify out of China. In fact, New Delhi is said to have already reached out to 100 companies. Incentives like capital expenditure benefits could be offered to companies looking to shift. But it's going to take some time for these companies to make up their minds. The coronavirus outbreak and the lockdowns have killed demand the world over. Major businesses, especially businesses to consumer companies, are practically shut. At the moment, India's fortunes are also tied with a global economic revival. If Delhi makes the right moves at the right pace, it could well emerge the winner.